He just wanted a cup of coffee. That's all. A 32-year-old single father sitting alone at an outdoor cafe, trying to hold on to 5 quiet minutes before the world started pulling at him again. Then a stranger in a $2,000 suit decided to humiliate him in front of everyone. What that stranger didn't know, what nobody at the cafe knew, was the kind of man Adrien Cole used to be, and what his hands could still do in under 2 seconds. A beautiful woman across the terrace was about to find out, and so was everybody else. If you're watching this story, please like the video, leave the name of the city you're watching from in the comments, and stay with me until the end so I can see how far this story has traveled. Now let's begin. The morning had that kind of light Adrien Cole used to miss when he lived somewhere else. A thin gold light, the kind that made even the cracked sidewalks of Briarwood look like they were worth photographing. He sat at a small round table near the edge of the terrace of a cafe called Merle's, a place that used to be a hardware store back when his father was alive. And he held his coffee with both hands the way a man holds something he doesn't want to drop. He had chosen the table near the edge. He always chose the table near the edge. Open view of the street, 2 exits within 6 steps. A low railing he could step over if he needed to. He didn't think about it anymore. His body had made the decision for him, the way his body had been making decisions for him since he was 19 years old, and learning the kind of things nobody should have to learn that young. His phone buzzed once on the table, a text from Mia's teacher. Mia forgot her lunch again. "We've got her covered, don't worry." He smiled, just a small pull at the corner of his mouth, and typed back, "I owe you one, Ms. Delgado. Seriously." Then he set the phone face down and took a slow sip of coffee that had gone from hot to warm while he wasn't paying attention. Mia was 7. Mia was the whole thing. Mia was the reason he had moved back to this town 2 years ago, the reason he wore old sneakers instead of the boots he used to wear, the reason he drove a used Honda instead of the truck he'd sold to pay off the lawyer. Mia didn't know any of that. Mia knew that her dad made pancakes shaped like cats on Saturday mornings, and that her dad could braid hair almost as well as her friend Luna's mom. That was enough. That was more than enough. Adrien leaned back in his chair. He let himself breathe. Let himself not scan the exits for 6 whole seconds. A small miracle. Then the bell above the cafe door chimed, and the whole morning changed. He didn't see her right away. He heard her first, the click of a heel on the wooden boards of the terrace, too sharp for Briarwood, too confident for a Tuesday. He lifted his eyes without lifting his head, which was another habit he couldn't unlearn. She was maybe 28, 29. Dark hair pulled back in a way that looked careless but wasn't. A cream-colored jacket that probably cost more than his rent. Sunglasses pushed up on her head like she'd forgotten they were there. She held her phone in one hand and a small leather bag in the other, and she was looking around the terrace the way people look around when they've never been to a place before and are deciding whether they're disappointed. She wasn't disappointed. She was amused. He could tell by the corner of her mouth. She picked a table 2 over from his, close enough that he heard her order a cortado from the waitress, close enough that he caught the faint smell of something clean and expensive when she sat down. She didn't look at him. She looked at her phone, then at the street, then at the chalkboard menu, then finally at him. He didn't look back. He looked at his coffee. His coffee was getting cold. "Excuse me," she said. He lifted his eyes. "Do you know if the Wi-Fi here is any good? I have a call in about 20 minutes and I don't want to tether." Her voice was low for a woman her size, a little scratchy, like she hadn't been asleep long enough. He nodded. "It's fine. Password's on the receipt." "Thank you." That was it. That should have been it. She smiled a small professional smile and went back to her phone. He went back to his coffee. The morning tried to put itself back together. It didn't get the chance. The man came in loud. That was the first thing about him. Everything about him was loud. His voice, his laugh, his cologne that arrived at the terrace before he did. He was somewhere in his 40s, built thick through the shoulders, wearing a suit that fit him the way an expensive suit fits a man who's used to paying people to tell him he looks good. He had a phone pressed against his ear, and he was saying something into it about a closing and a wire transfer and how somebody named Dennis needed to get his head out of his ass by lunch. He walked past Adrien's table without looking at it. His elbow caught Adrien's coffee cup. The cup didn't fall. Adrien's hand was already there, catching it. But coffee sloshed over the rim and onto Adrien's wrist, hot enough to sting. "Dennis, hold on!" the man said into the phone. He looked down at Adrien's table with the mildly irritated expression of a man who had stepped in something on the sidewalk. Watch where you put your stuff, pal. Adrien set the cup down. He picked up a napkin. He wiped his wrist. He said nothing. The man looked at him for another second, waiting for something. When it didn't come, he made a small noise in his throat and walked on, 3 tables down, and sat with his back to Adrien, already shouting at Dennis again. Adrien finished wiping his wrist. He folded the napkin neatly and set it on the table. He took another sip of coffee. It was cold now. He didn't mind. He could feel her watching him. The woman 2 tables over. He didn't look at her. He knew the look. He'd seen it before. Curiosity, confusion, a little bit of why didn't you say something? He'd stopped explaining a long time ago. A minute passed. Then another. The man's phone call ended. He ordered an espresso, loudly. He told the waitress he wanted it in a real cup, not one of the little paper things you people keep trying to give me. The waitress, a woman in her 50s named Paulette, who had known Adrien since he was 12, smiled the way waitresses smile when they're doing math in their heads about their tip and their mortgage. The man drank his espresso in 2 swallows. Then he stood up. Adrien was hoping he'd leave. He didn't leave. He walked back over. Hey, he said, standing right next to Adrien's table. You know what? I've been sitting there thinking about this. I think you owe me an apology. Adrien looked up, slowly. The sun was behind the man's head and Adrien had to squint. Is that right? He said. Not a question. Flat.
Yeah, that's right. I bumped you, fine, whatever, but your stuff was halfway into the aisle. This is a public walkway, brother. You want to camp out, go to a library. Adrien didn't answer. Come on, the man said. Say it. Adrien took a breath. I'm not going to apologize. No? No. The man laughed. It wasn't a real laugh. It was the kind of laugh men make when they're testing the air in a room to see how much space they're allowed to take up. You know what? That's cute. You sit there with your little coffee and your little phone and your little attitude. Let me ask you something. What do you do? Huh? For a living. What do you do? Adrien looked at him. He could feel the whole terrace listening now. He could feel the woman 2 tables over, very still, watching over the rim of her cortado. He could feel Paulette by the door, her hand halfway to her apron pocket where she kept her phone. I'm a contractor, Adrien said quietly. I hang drywall mostly. A contractor. The man smiled, a slow, unpleasant smile. See, that makes sense. That explains a lot. Adrien said nothing. I own the building across the street, the man went on, gesturing vaguely. The one with the scaffolding. You know how much that building cost me? Take a guess. I don't want to guess. 4.2. $4.2 million. That's the kind of money that makes a man's elbow matter. You understand what I'm saying? My elbow is a $4.2 million elbow. Your coffee is a $3 coffee. Do the math, drywall. Somewhere near the door, a young guy in a baseball cap snickered, just one short, nervous laugh. Adrien didn't turn his head. I'd like to finish my coffee, Adrien said. I'd like you to walk away. Oh, you'd like? Would you? The man leaned down, both hands flat on Adrien's table, his face maybe 1.5 feet from Adrien's. You'd like. Let me tell you something, drywall. I've been in this town for 6 months. I bought 3 buildings. I'm going to buy 3 more. In a year, you're going to be hanging drywall in one of my buildings, and I'm going to be writing the check that feeds your kid. So when I bump your table, you say sorry, sir. You understand me? Adrien's hand, the one resting on his thigh under the table, closed into a loose fist and then opened again. Nobody saw it. He made sure nobody saw it. Walk away, Adrien said. Please. Please. The man straightened up. He laughed again, louder this time, pulling the whole terrace into it. He said, please. Did everybody hear that? The man said, please. Adrien looked past him. He looked at the street. A woman was walking a small brown dog on the opposite sidewalk. The dog stopped to sniff a streetlight. The woman waited, patient, checking her phone. Adrien watched them because watching them was easier than watching the man in front of him. He thought about Mia. He thought about her teacher's text. He thought about the little plastic cat-shaped lunchbox sitting on the kitchen counter at home where he'd forgotten to hand it to her this morning because he'd been distracted by a phone call about a plumbing estimate. He thought, I can get up. I can pay for my coffee. I can leave. That is the thing to do. He reached for his wallet. The man saw him reach. Oh, no, 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 the man said. You don't get to leave. You don't get to leave. We're having a conversation, Drywall. He put a hand on Adrien's shoulder. It was not a hard push. It was worse than a hard push. It was a small, deliberate, almost affectionate pat, the way a man pats a dog he's bored with. 2 short taps on the fabric of Adrien's jacket, right above the collarbone. Adrien went very still. The woman 2 tables over set her cortado down without making a sound. Adrien had a scar on the back of his left hand. It ran from the base of his thumb in a thin white curve up toward his wrist, and most people never noticed it because most people don't look at other people's hands. Mia had noticed it when she was 4. She'd traced it with her small finger and asked, "Daddy, what's that?" And Adrien had told her the truth, the child-sized version of the truth. "I got hurt a long time ago, before you were born. It's all better now." Mia had kissed it the way she'd seen her grandmother kiss scraped knees, and she had said, "All better," and then she'd gone back to her crayons. He had not thought about that scar in a long time. He thought about it now. He thought about the man whose knife had given it to him, in a village whose name he would not say out loud anymore, on a day he did not describe to anyone, not even to the therapist the Veterans Affairs Office had sent him to for 8 months after he came home. He thought, this is not that. This is a man in a suit. This is a Tuesday morning. This is a coffee shop in Briarwood, Ohio. He thought, breathe. He breathed. "Sir," he said. Calm. Very, very calm. "I need you to take your hand off me." "Or what?" Adrien looked up at him. For the first time, he really looked at him. The man was half a head taller than him and heavier, and flushed pink around the collar from the espresso and the morning sun and whatever it was that kept him angry all the time. His eyes were small and a little wet. A vein in his temple was working. "Or nothing," Adrien said. "I'm asking you as a favor. Take your hand off me and walk away. I won't say anything else. You won't either. That's the end of it." "That's the end of it," the man repeated in a little sing-song mocking voice, and he squeezed Adrien's shoulder harder this time. Somebody at another table said quietly, "Jesus." Somebody else said, "Should we call somebody?" Paulette, by the door, had her phone out. Her thumb was moving. The woman 2 tables over, Sienna, though Adrien didn't know her name yet, didn't move. She just watched. Her face had changed. The amusement was gone. Something else was there now, something harder to name. Not fear, not excitement. Attention. Pure, undivided attention, as if she had been half awake all morning and had just now woken up. The man leaned in closer. Adrien could smell him now, the cologne and the espresso, and something under it, whiskey or mouthwash. Adrien couldn't tell. "You know what your problem is, Drywall? You think being quiet makes you strong. It doesn't. It makes you a mark. It makes you the guy who gets his coffee spilled and says, 'Please.' You're a grown man. Act like one." He poked Adrien in the chest with 2 fingers. Adrien closed his eyes. 1 full second. When he opened them, something had gone out of his face that hadn't been there before, and something else had come into it. The woman 2 tables over saw it. She was maybe the only one who did. "Okay," Adrien said. "Okay." He stood up, slowly. He kept his hands open and visible, palms turned a little outward. The man stepped back half a step without meaning to. A purely animal response that the man himself didn't notice, but that his body had noticed. "I'm going to pay for my coffee," Adrien said quietly. "I'm going to walk to my car. You're going to let me do that." "Am I?" "Yes, you are." "And if I don't?" "You will." The man laughed, but there wasn't as much in it this time. He looked around. He had an audience now, and he couldn't back down in front of an audience. Adrien understood this. Adrien had seen men in much worse places make much worse decisions for exactly this reason. "You know what?" the man said. "You know what, Drywall? I'm tired of your face." And he swung. It wasn't even a good punch. It was a right hand, thrown from the shoulder, telegraphed from somewhere around Toledo. A man who had never really been in a fight, throwing the kind of punch he'd seen in movies. Adrien saw it coming before the man's hand left his hip. What happened next took less than 2 seconds.
Later, Sienna would try to describe it to her sister on the phone, and she would find that she couldn't, really, because it happened too fast and too cleanly to break into pieces. She would say, he wasn't there, and then he was there, and the guy was on the ground. Her sister would say, what do you mean he wasn't there? And Sienna would say, I don't know how to explain it. He moved. It was like watching water. What Adrien did was this. He stepped inside the punch, which meant the man's fist went past his ear instead of into his face. He caught the man's wrist in his left hand, the hand with the scar, and he rotated it, not hard, just enough, in the direction the joint didn't want to go. With his right hand, he took the man's elbow, and he pushed down and forward in a short, smooth arc. The man's own momentum did most of the work. He went down on one knee, then both knees, then forward onto his chest on the wooden boards of the terrace, and Adrien went down with him, one knee lightly on the man's back. The man's arm folded up behind him in a position that was not painful unless the man tried to move, in which case it would be very painful very fast. Adrien didn't hit him. He didn't strike him once. He just held him there. The whole terrace had gone silent. A chair scraped somewhere. A spoon clinked against a saucer. Somebody's phone started ringing and was silenced mid-ring. The man on the ground made a small sound, half a grunt, half something else. Don't move, Adrien said quietly, down into the back of the man's neck. If you move, I'll have to tighten this, and I don't want to, okay? Just stay still. Somebody's calling the police. It's okay. Just stay still. The man stayed still. Adrien looked up. He didn't mean to, but his eyes found her. The woman 2 tables over. She was looking right at him. She had not moved from her seat. She had not flinched. Her hands were resting flat on the table in front of her, one on either side of her cortado. Her expression was unreadable. Not shocked, not pleased, not afraid. Something quieter than any of those. Her eyes did not leave his. He looked away first. Paulette was on her phone, talking fast, nodding. Yes, right now. Merle's, on 3rd. Yes, no, he's holding him. No, nobody's hurt. I don't think so. Yes, okay. Somewhere on the street, a siren had already started. The police came in 3 minutes. Briarwood was a small town. 3 minutes in Briarwood was a long time to kneel on a stranger's back on a wooden terrace in the gold morning light. But Adrien knelt there, and he did not say anything else. And the man beneath him did not say anything either, though at one point, Adrien felt the man's shoulders start to shake. And he realized, with a small, sad twist in his chest, that the man was crying. It's okay, Adrien said, very quietly, so quietly that nobody else could hear. It's okay. Just breathe. It's almost over. The man didn't answer, but the shaking slowed. When the officers arrived, 2 of them, a man and a woman, both of whom Adrien vaguely knew from around town, Adrien let go of the arm and stood up slowly, hands visible, the way he'd been taught to stand up from a situation like this a long time ago. He took 2 steps back. He put his hands on the back of a chair and kept them there. Adrien? The female officer said. Her name tag said Ramos. She had gone to high school with his younger cousin. You want to tell me what happened? He swung on me, Adrien said. I took him down. I didn't hit him. He's not hurt. Officer Ramos looked at the man on the ground, who was sitting up now, red-faced, rubbing his shoulder, looking around like a man who had just remembered he was in public. Sir, Ramos said, can you stand up, please? Witnesses came forward without being asked. Paulette first. Then the young guy in the baseball cap who had laughed earlier and who now looked, Adrien noticed, very ashamed of himself. Then an older couple at the back of the terrace. Then a teenager who had been filming on his phone almost from the beginning and who offered the video with the slightly frightened eagerness of a kid who knew he had something important. And then, last, the woman 2 tables over. She stood up, she walked, unhurried, over to Officer Ramos. She said calmly and clearly, I saw the whole thing. That man, she pointed at the man in the suit, harassed him for about 5 minutes, put his hand on him, then threw a punch. This gentleman, she looked at Adrien, asked him repeatedly to stop. He used only enough force to stop the assault. He didn't strike him. I'll give you a statement. My name is Sienna Blake, and I have a lawyer I'll be happy to have call you if you need anything further. Officer Ramos looked at her for a second longer than she looked at the others. Then she nodded. "Thank you, ma'am." The man in the suit was helped to his feet. He tried to say something about a misunderstanding, about being a property owner in town, about not pressing charges if nobody else pressed charges. Officer Ramos cut him off gently and walked him toward the squad car. The male officer took statements. The teenager sent his video to an email address. Paulette brought Adrien a fresh cup of coffee without asking if he wanted one, and she set it down on his table, and she said, "On the house, honey." And she patted his arm once before she walked away. Adrien sat down. He was surprised to find that his hands were shaking a little. Not a lot, just a fine, small tremor in the fingers. He pressed them flat against the wood of the table until the tremor went away. The terrace slowly started to move again. Conversations picked up, low and excited. Somebody laughed. A real laugh. Relieved. The young guy in the baseball cap came over and said very quickly, "Hey man, I'm sorry. I laughed earlier when that guy was, I shouldn't have. I'm sorry." Adrien nodded at him and said, "It's okay. Thanks for saying so." The guy nodded back, awkward and grateful, and he went back to his table. Adrien looked down at his fresh coffee. A shadow fell across the table. He looked up. Sienna Blake was standing there, one hand on the back of the empty chair across from him. Her sunglasses were still pushed up on her head. Up close, he could see that she had a small freckle at the corner of her mouth, and that her eyes were the color of strong tea. "May I?" she said. Adrien looked at the chair. He looked at her. He looked at the street, and at the woman with the small brown dog, who had stopped on the opposite sidewalk to watch the whole thing and was now continuing her walk as if nothing had happened. He thought, the thing to do is say no, thank you, and finish your coffee and go home. He thought, but... "Sure," he said. She sat down. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. She folded her hands in front of her, on the table, and she looked at him the way somebody looks at a painting in a museum when they're not sure yet whether they like it. Not judging, just looking. "You didn't hit him," she said finally. "No." "You could have." "Yes." "Why didn't you?" Adrien thought about that. He thought about how to answer it. He thought about how many different answers there were, and which one was the true one, and whether the true one was the one a stranger deserved to hear on a Tuesday morning. "Because my daughter is 7 years old," he said, "and I promised her mother before she died that I would come home every day. Hitting him would have been more than I needed to do. More than I needed to do might have turned into something I couldn't come home from." Sienna's expression didn't change much. A small softening around the eyes. Nothing else. "How long ago?" she said quietly. 4 years. "I'm sorry." "Thank you." She looked down at her hands. She looked back up. "I'm Sienna," she said. "Adrien." "I heard." "Right." A small smile. "Can I ask what you really do, Adrien? Because I don't think it's drywall." He almost laughed. It came out as a breath through his nose. "It's drywall," he said. "Actually, I do hang drywall. I also do framing and some electrical. I run a 2-man crew out of my garage. The other guy is my cousin Teo. We mostly do renovations on old houses in town." "And before that?" "Before that was a long time ago." "Okay," she said. She didn't push. He appreciated that. She picked up her cortado. It must have been cold by now. She drank from it anyway. "I'm in town for a week," she said. "My grandmother lived here. I haven't been back in a while. I was going to leave Friday." She set the cup down. "I'm thinking I might stay longer." Adrien looked at her. He didn't know what to say to that, so he didn't say anything. "That wasn't a line," she said. I don't know. It's been a strange morning." "Yeah." "Do you come here a lot?" "Every Tuesday and Thursday, before I pick Mia up from school. She gets out at 2:40. "Mia, my daughter." "Right." She nodded. "That's a pretty name." "Her mother picked it." "Of course." Another silence. This one easier than the first. Out on the street, somebody honked. A bird landed on the terrace railing and looked at them with one yellow eye and flew away. Sienna reached into her bag. She took out a small white business card and set it on the table between them, face down. She didn't push it toward him. She just put it there. I'm not going to do the thing where I ask for your number, she said. You've had a weird enough morning, but if you ever want a cup of coffee that doesn't end with somebody on the ground, that's me. No pressure, genuinely. If you throw it away when I leave, I won't know, and it won't matter.
She stood up. She smoothed the front of her jacket. She looked at him one more time, and there it was again, that attention, that same still look she had given him while he had a man on the ground. It was nice to meet you, Adrien Cole. You too, Sienna Blake. She turned and walked away, unhurried, her heels making the same sharp sound on the boards they had made when she arrived. The bell over the cafe door chimed once. She was gone. Adrien sat there for a long time. He didn't pick up the card. He didn't throw it away either. Eventually he turned it over. Just her first name and a phone number written in black ink in a careful hand. No company, no title. He looked at it for a long time, then he slid it into the inside pocket of his jacket, the one over his chest. The pocket he never used for anything. He paid Paulette. He tipped her 40%. He walked to his car. At 2:32 in the afternoon, Adrien stood across the street from Briarwood Elementary School, leaning against the hood of his Honda with his arms crossed, the way he always did, the way he had done every school day for the last 2 years. The sun was higher now, and hotter, and the gold of the morning had gone out of it. It was just regular afternoon light now, flat and honest. The bell rang. The doors opened. The kids came out the way kids come out of schools. In a sudden disorganized flood, small bright jackets and enormous backpacks, and voices pitched too loud for the size of the bodies they came from. Adrien watched for the one he was watching for. There. Third grader height, though she was only in second grade because she was tall for her age. Dark hair in 2 braids that had started the day, tight, and were now loosening at the ends. A purple backpack with a cat on it. A lunchbox shaped like the same cat, which Ms. Delgado had apparently located somewhere. Mia saw him. She waved. She ran. She always ran. He caught her when she got to him, and he lifted her up, and she was too big now, really, to be lifted. But he lifted her anyway, because one day soon he wouldn't be able to, and he wanted to keep doing it until then. Daddy, she said, Luna's mom said we can have a sleepover on Saturday. Can we please? Can we please? We can talk about it. That means yes. That means we can talk about it. That means yes. He laughed. He set her down. He took her backpack from her and hung it over his own shoulder, which he did every day even though she could carry it herself, because it was one of the small things he could do for her, and one day she would not let him do it anymore. How was school? Okay, Lucas threw up in music. It was pretty bad. Ms. Arnaz had to get the thing. The sprinkly stuff. The sawdust. The sawdust, yeah. That's rough for Lucas. He said it was because of the oatmeal, but I think it was because of the cafeteria pizza on Friday. 2-day delayed pizza revenge. Exactly. They walked to the car. He opened her door for her. She climbed in. He went around to the driver's side and got in and sat for a second with his hands on the wheel before he started the engine. In the rearview mirror, he could see her in her booster seat, already pulling a book out of her backpack. She did this every afternoon. She said it was because cars were boring and books were not. Daddy, she said, without looking up from the book, your face looks different. He looked at her in the mirror. Different how? She studied him for a second, the way she studied everything, with a small frown that wasn't a frown, just concentration. I don't know, she said. Just different. He thought about the card in the inside pocket of his jacket. He could feel it there, the small rectangle of paper against his chest. He hadn't forgotten it was there. He didn't think he was going to forget it was there for a while. Something kind of weird happened at the coffee place today, he said. Did you get in a fight? No. Daddy. I didn't. I promise. But something kind of strange happened, and I think I'm still thinking about it. Mia looked at him in the mirror for a long second. Then she looked back down at her book. Okay, she said. Just tell me later if you want. Okay. He started the engine. He pulled away from the curb. In his chest pocket, the card felt a little warmer than it had any reason to feel. He drove his daughter home through the gold, then not gold, then slightly tired afternoon light of Briarwood, Ohio. And for the first time in a long time, he was aware that the shape of his days, the shape he had made so carefully, so deliberately, so small, had just changed in a way he did not yet understand and could not yet measure.
He wasn't afraid of it. That, more than anything, was the part that surprised him. The card stayed in the inside pocket of his jacket for 2 full days. Adrien didn't look at it. He didn't take it out and set it on the kitchen counter. He didn't do the thing some men would have done, which was to copy the number into his phone and then sit there staring at the new contact, trying to decide. He just let the card be where it was, a small rectangle of paper against his chest, and he went about the business of being a father and a man who hung drywall for a living. Wednesday morning, he took Mia to school. He made her a peanut butter sandwich, cut diagonally the way she liked it, wrapped in wax paper instead of plastic because she had come home from a field trip to the recycling center with strong opinions about plastic. He packed the sandwich into her cat-shaped lunchbox, along with an apple, a juice box, and a small bag of the cheese crackers shaped like goldfish. He zipped the lunchbox closed. He handed it to her. "Thank you, Daddy. You're welcome, sweetheart. Your face still looks different." "Does it?" "A little bit." He bent down and kissed the top of her head. Her hair smelled like the strawberry shampoo she had picked out herself at the drugstore, and like sleep. He let himself stand there for 1 extra second, and then he straightened up and opened the front door, and he walked her down the 3 steps of their porch to the sidewalk where the school bus would stop. Mrs. Petrak across the street waved at them from her garden, where she was doing something to her tomatoes with a pair of yellow gloves. Adrien waved back. Mia waved harder. Mrs. Petrak had been their neighbor for 2 years and had a tendency to leave small foil-wrapped packages of baklava on their porch without warning, and Mia had decided that this made her the best neighbor in the world. The bus came. Mia climbed on. She waved at him through the window, a small, serious wave, and then she sat down next to Luna, and the two of them immediately bent their heads together in the way of 7-year-old girls who had urgent business to discuss. The bus pulled away. Adrien stood on the sidewalk for a second longer than he needed to. He watched the bus until it turned the corner at the end of the block. Then he walked back up to the house. He had a job at the Kellerman place on the north side of town, an addition off the back of the kitchen that Mr. Kellerman had been talking about for 6 years and had finally saved up enough to start. Theo was going to meet him there at 8. Adrien ate a bowl of cereal standing up at the counter, drank a second cup of coffee, and put on his work jacket, the denim one, not the one with the card in it, and went out to the garage. The truck, a 15-year-old F-150 that used to belong to his uncle, started on the second try. He backed out of the driveway and pointed it north. Theo was already at the Kellermans when he got there. He was sitting on the tailgate of his own truck, drinking an energy drink, scrolling through his phone. Theo was 26, 4 years younger than Adrien, 6 inches shorter, and built like a fire plug. He had been Adrien's crew for a year and a half, and before that he had worked for a roofing company out of Marysville, where he had fallen off a roof and broken both his wrists. And before that, he had been Adrien's little cousin, who followed him around the Cole family reunions asking to see his tattoos. "Primo," Theo said, without looking up. "Primo. You're famous." Adrien paused, one hand on the truck door. "What?" Theo finally looked up. He turned his phone around. On the screen was a video. The camera was a little shaky, a little too far away, but the scene was unmistakable. Merle's terrace, the man in the suit swinging, Adrien moving inside the punch and taking him down, quiet as a dropped coat. The video had a thumbnail that said Briarwood, Ohio, real hero across the bottom in yellow letters. "That's you," Theo said. "Right? Where did you get that?" "It's on everything, man. My girlfriend's sister's group chat. 3 of my Instagram people. My dentist's office sent out their newsletter this morning, and it had a link to this video. Your dentist sent it to my dentist. It's out, Primo." Adrien stared at the little screen for a long second. The video was 43 seconds long. The view counter at the bottom said 847,000. Theo. 847,000 views, Primo. Last night it was 200. Theo, I don't want to be on the internet. I know you don't. I didn't put it there. Who did? The kid. The kid in the baseball cap. His TikTok is... Hold on. His TikTok is at like 2.1 million followers. He puts up videos of guys getting their asses handed to them. This is his biggest one all year. Adrien took off his jacket. He hung it on the hook inside the cab of the truck. He shut the door more carefully than he needed to. "Okay," he said. "That's all you got? What do you want me to say?" "I want you to say, Theo, I have been hiding 6 months of MMA training from you. Or Teo, I used to be in the FBI. Or Teo, I am actually Batman, because that, Primo, he tapped his phone, that was not a drywall guy. That was like a movie. It wasn't a movie. It looked like a movie. He was slow. He was slow. Teo repeated it flatly. He looked at Adrien. He looked at his phone. He looked at Adrien again. He was slow. Yeah, okay, sure. Can we have this conversation another time? Because I feel like this is a conversation. Yeah, another time. Cool, because also, like, are you okay? Because I keep forgetting to ask, but, like, some guy took a swing at you in public. Are you okay? Adrien thought about the question. He appreciated that Teo had asked it. Most of the world, when a thing like that happened, wanted to know what you had done, not how you were. He thought about telling him the truth, which was that he had slept badly for 2 nights and had woken up at 3:40 that morning with his heart going a little too fast, and had lain there in the dark listening to Mia breathe through the open door of her bedroom until the sound had slowed him back down. I'm okay, he said. Let's go look at this edition. Cool, Primo. Teo slid off the tailgate. He stuffed his phone in his back pocket. He picked up his tool belt. They walked together around the side of the Kellerman house to the backyard, where a chalk outline on the grass showed where the new room was going to be. Halfway there, Teo said, without looking at him, She's pretty, the woman in the video, sitting at the table behind you, the one with the hair. Adrien didn't answer. Teo didn't push it. That was one of the things Adrien liked about him. They worked until noon. They ate lunch on the tailgate of Adrien's truck, sandwiches from the gas station on the corner, sitting in silence, because there was a kind of silence you could have with your cousin that was better than talking. A breeze came up from the south. Somewhere down the block, a lawnmower started. Adrien's phone buzzed. He looked at it. A text from a number he didn't recognize. I hope this is the right number. I asked Paulette at the café. She took a little convincing. Hope that's okay. S. He looked at it for a long time. Teo, chewing, glanced over. Is that her? What? The woman. From the video. How did you... Your whole face changed, Primo. Adrien locked the phone. He put it back in his pocket. Eat your sandwich. I'm eating. Teo grinned at nothing in particular, the grin of a man enjoying himself. Tell her I say hi.
I'm not going to tell her you say hi. Why not? I'm a delight. Teo. Okay. They finished lunch. They worked until 4. Adrien drove home. He picked up Mia from Luna's house, where Luna's mother, Priya, stood at the door for 10 minutes telling him about the sleepover plans for Saturday, plans which, he noticed, had somehow progressed from, we can talk about it, to a fully worked-out logistical operation involving pizza, a movie, and borrowed sleeping bags.
I mean, only if it's okay with you, Adrien, Priya said. The girls got a little ahead of themselves. The girls got a lot ahead of themselves. I know, she smiled. Luna's been planning it in her head since the 1st grade. Saturday's fine, he said. Thank you, Priya. Of course. And she hesitated. She lowered her voice a little. I saw the video. Oh. I just wanted to say, I think you did the right thing. A lot of men would have hit him. Yeah, that's all. I just wanted to say that. Thank you. She gave him a small, warm smile. He gathered up Mia, and the two of them walked back to the Honda, Mia holding his hand and swinging it a little too hard the way she did when she was happy. In the car, Mia said, Daddy, are you famous? No. Luna's mom said you were in a video. I was in a video. That's different from famous. Can I see the video? No, sweetheart. Why not? Because there's a part in it that isn't for kids. Mia considered this. She was the kind of kid who took not for kids seriously, because she had been raised by a father who didn't say it unless he meant it. Okay, she said. She looked out the window. Lucas didn't throw up today. Good. He ate a whole apple. He wanted everyone to know. Lucas has turned a corner. He has. They drove home. Adrien made dinner, chicken and rice and frozen peas that Mia called the green ones. Mia read to him from a chapter book about a girl who lived in a lighthouse. He did the dishes while she took her bath. He read to her from the same book for 20 minutes, picking up where she had left off, and then he tucked her in and turned off her lamp and kissed her forehead and stood in her doorway for a second, the way he stood in her doorway every night, until her breathing evened out. He went downstairs. He sat on the couch. The house was quiet, the way houses with a single sleeping child are quiet. Not silent, because the refrigerator was running and the old radiator in the hallway was ticking, but a warmer kind of quiet than a truly empty house. He took out his phone. He looked at the text again. I hope this is the right number. I asked Paulette at the cafe. She took a little convincing. Hope that's okay. S. He thought for a minute. He typed slowly with his thumbs. It's the right number. Paulette has known me since I was 12. If she gave you my number, that means she likes you. That doesn't happen a lot. He sent it before he could second guess it. The reply came back so fast he suspected she had been holding her phone. That's a relief. I was worried I'd bribed her with the wrong pastry. He almost laughed. He didn't type back right away. He sat there looking at the message. Another text came through. I know this is forward. I'm still here. My grandmother's house is on Elm Street. I'm cleaning it out. My sister and I are selling it. It's taking longer than I thought. He typed, which house on Elm? I've probably worked on it. The blue one with the white porch. 212. He closed his eyes for a second. I know that house. I replaced the porch railings 2 years ago. For Mrs. Blake. A long pause. That was my grandmother. Another pause. She told me about you. He sat up a little straighter on the couch. She did? She said a polite young man came and fixed her porch and wouldn't take more than the materials cost. She said he had a little girl. She left him brownies in a Tupperware, and he brought the Tupperware back washed with a thank you note inside it. She was very impressed. She mentioned it for about a month. Adrien rubbed the back of his neck. He remembered the brownies. They had been excellent. He remembered the note. He had made Mia help him write it, had her draw a picture on the bottom of a flower that was also, somehow, a cat. He had not remembered Mrs. Blake's first name, and he could not have told you the color of her eyes, but he remembered that she had sat on a folding chair on her front lawn while he worked and had asked him questions about his life the way older women sometimes did. Questions that were not nosy, because they were genuinely curious. I'm sorry for your loss, he typed. She was kind to me. Thank you. She was kind to everybody. It's what made her frustrating. He did laugh at that one. Out loud. A short, surprised laugh in the quiet of his own living room. He typed, Can I ask a question? Yes. What do you do? For work. There was a longer pause this time. I do marketing for a company out of Chicago that makes performance athletic wear. I'm a senior director. Okay, that's the short answer. The long answer is my father started the company 26 years ago, and I grew up in the warehouse, and I have been trying to decide for about 3 years whether I want to keep working there or whether I want to do something else. I haven't decided. That's a real answer. You asked. I did. Another pause. Adrien, I'm going to ask you something, and if it's too much, you can say no, and I won't be weird about it. Okay. There's a diner on Route 9 about 15 minutes outside of town. My grandmother used to take me there when I was a kid. I haven't been back. I was thinking about driving out tomorrow evening. If you wanted to meet me there, I would like that. He looked at the message. He read it twice. He thought about Mia, who was asleep upstairs, and about the card in the inside pocket of his jacket in the closet, and about the video on the internet that 847,000 people, soon to be more, had watched, and about his wife, who had been dead for 4 years and 1 month and 11 days, and who had once, near the end, when the pain medication was making her talkative and sad, told him that she didn't want him to be alone forever. She had said it exactly that way. Don't be alone forever, Adrien. That's all I ask. He had not answered her because he couldn't, because his throat had closed up, and she had taken his hand and squeezed it once and said, You don't have to answer. Just don't forget I said it. He had not forgotten. Tomorrow's Thursday, he typed. I have my daughter. Priya can take her for a couple hours, but I can't be out late. Anything works. Early dinner? 6? 6 works. It's called Rudy's. Route 9. About 4 miles past the Shell station. I know it. See you then. See you then. He set the phone face down on the coffee table. He sat on the couch for another 15 minutes without moving. Then he went upstairs and looked at his daughter sleeping, and he went to bed, and he lay there with his eyes open for a long time before he slept. Thursday morning, Teo noticed something. They were taping drywall in the Kellerman's new addition, which smelled like fresh lumber and joint compound, and the particular dusty sunlight that happens inside a half-finished room. And Teo kept looking at him sideways. "What?" Adrien said finally. "Nothing." "Teo, you're whistling, Primo." "I'm not whistling." "You were whistling 30 seconds ago. You were whistling that song, the one from the commercial, the car commercial." "I don't know what you're talking about." "I'm just saying, I've worked with you for a year and a half. You do not whistle." Teo pressed a strip of tape into a seam with the flat of his knife. "Something's happening." "Nothing's happening." "Okay, Primo." "Nothing is happening." "I didn't say anything." "You said something's happening." "I was agreeing with you." "No, you weren't." Teo grinned at the wall. Adrien wanted to be annoyed but couldn't quite manage it. He went back to work. He did not whistle. At 5:15 that evening, he was standing in his bedroom with the closet open, trying to decide what to wear to a diner on Route 9. Which was stupid. A man does not agonize over what to wear to a diner. A man puts on a clean shirt and some jeans that don't have drywall dust on them, and he goes to the diner. He put on a clean shirt. He put on jeans that didn't have drywall dust on them. He looked at himself in the mirror above the dresser for 1 second longer than he normally did, and then he stopped looking because looking was where trouble started. He drove Mia to Priya's. Priya opened the door. Luna appeared behind her knees and grabbed Mia and pulled her inside like she was salvaging a shipwreck. "Thank you again," Adrien said. "Don't thank me. You go have your evening." It's not any of my business what it is." Priya smiled. "Have a nice evening, Adrien. Go on." He went. Route 9 was a state highway that cut northwest out of Briarwood through cornfields and a stretch of old orchards that somebody's grandfather had planted 70 years ago and that somebody's grandson now sold apples from at a fruit stand in October. The evening light was lower than it had been a week ago, an early fall kind of light, even though it wasn't officially fall, and a red-tailed hawk sat on a fence post a quarter mile outside town and did not move as he drove past. Rudy's was exactly the way he remembered it. A low brick building with a rusted neon sign and a gravel parking lot and 4 pickup trucks out front that looked like they had been built before he was born. Inside, it smelled like bacon and coffee and the cleaning solution they used on the tile floor. There were 8 booths and a counter with 6 stools and an older woman behind the counter with a pencil behind her ear who looked up when he came in and said, "Sit anywhere, hun." Sienna was in the corner booth. She wore jeans and a soft-looking gray sweater, and her hair was down, and she had no makeup on that he could see, and she looked somehow both younger and more tired than she had at the cafe on Tuesday. She saw him. She didn't stand up. She raised one hand, a small wave. He walked over and slid into the booth across from her. "Hey," she said. "Hey, you came." "I said I would." "People say things." "I try not to." She nodded. She picked up the menu, which was a laminated one-pager with pictures, and slid one across to him. Their fingers almost touched. They didn't touch. He noticed because he was a man who had been paying attention to everything for 2 days. "What's good here?" he said. "The pancakes." "The pancakes are what's good." "It's dinner." "They serve breakfast all day. That's why my grandmother brought me. She said anything that serves breakfast all day is a place you can trust." She had opinions. She had so many opinions, Adrien, you don't even know. She told me once that people who put ice in their coffee were morally weak. He laughed. The woman at the counter looked over, smiled a little, looked away. The waitress came. She was maybe 19, gum in her cheek, pen behind her ear, name tag that said Carly. Sienna ordered pancakes and bacon and coffee. Adrien ordered a cheeseburger and coffee. Carly wrote it down without writing it down, the way waitresses at places like Rudy's do, and she went away. "I was nervous," Sienna said. "About what?" "About whether you'd come." "I said I would." "I know, but you didn't answer my text right away. I thought maybe I'd push too hard. I was putting my daughter to bed." "Ah." "I'm not good at this," he said. "Good at what?" "This." He gestured vaguely at the table, at the booth, at the whole diner. "I haven't done it in a long time." "How long?" 4 years. "Right. He looked at his hands on the table. He turned them over. The scar on the back of his left hand caught the light. My wife's name was Elena, he said. She was a nurse. She got sick in 2019 and she died in the summer of 2020. She was 31.
I'm sorry. I don't usually...
He stopped. He started again. I'm telling you because you were kind to me on Tuesday, and because your grandmother was kind to me 2 years ago, and because I don't want to sit across from you and pretend any of that didn't happen. I'm not dating. I don't know what this is. I just wanted you to know. She was very still, watching him, and he realized she was doing the same thing she had done in the cafe. The same deep and unhurried attention, as if she had been taught somewhere to listen in a way that most people hadn't bothered to learn. Thank you for telling me, she said. I'm going to tell you something too. Okay.
I was engaged for 4 years. Not to anyone you've heard of. His name is Marcus. He's a lawyer, corporate stuff. We broke it off 8 months ago because I woke up on a Tuesday and realized I had been pretending to want the life he wanted for about 3 years, and I had done it so well I almost fooled myself. It wasn't his fault. He's a decent man. I just wasn't in the right place. It ended badly anyway because these things always do. I moved out.
I've been living in a 2-bedroom in Bucktown that has no furniture in the living room. I haven't bought a couch because buying a couch feels like a decision I can't take back. She took a breath. I'm not looking for anything either. I came to Briarwood to clean out my grandmother's house. I met you on Tuesday. I don't know what this is either. Adrien looked at her. Okay, he said quietly. Okay. The coffee came. They drank it. Carly brought them refills without asking. Can I ask something? Sienna said. Yeah. Where did you learn to do what you did? On Tuesday. He had known the question was coming. He had known it would come. He had decided, somewhere on the drive out of town, that he was going to tell her the truth, because he could feel that she would know if he lied, and because he was tired of lying, even by omission. I was in the army, he said. 8 years. I came home in 2016. I did 2 tours in a place I'd rather not name. I was trained for close quarters work that I'd rather not describe in detail. I came home, I got a job, I met Elena, we got married, we had Mia, Elena got sick, Elena died. I moved back to Briarwood to be near my mother, and I hang drywall. He took a sip of his coffee. That's the whole story. Do you still... She stopped. She started over. Do you still think about it? Every day? Is that hard? Not as hard as it used to be. Mia helps. Sienna nodded slowly. She wrapped both hands around her coffee mug. I don't know anything about the army. There's no reason you should. My father was in the Navy for 2 years, before he met my mother. He never talks about it. I don't even know what he did. That's pretty common. Is it? Yeah, some people need to put it in a box and keep the lid on. Are you one of those people? He thought about it. I used to be, he said. I don't know what I am now. The food came. They ate. Sienna's pancakes were as good as she had said they would be, and she made him try a bite, and he admitted they were better than he had expected. His cheeseburger was the kind of cheeseburger you get at a diner, which is to say it was exactly right. They talked. They talked about her grandmother's house, which apparently had 32 boxes of National Geographic magazines in the attic that she could not figure out how to get rid of. They talked about Mia, who was, he told her, the funniest person he had ever met, which he had not realized about her until she was about 4 years old, which was when she had started making deliberate jokes. They talked about Teo, who she decided immediately that she wanted to meet. They talked about Chicago, where Sienna lived and Adrien had never been, and about a bar in Briarwood called the Owl's Nest that Sienna had snuck into when she was 16, and about the particular kind of quiet that happens in a small town at 9 o'clock on a Sunday night. They did not talk about the man in the suit. They did not talk about the video. They did not talk about the future. At 7:20, Adrien looked at his phone. I have to go, he said. I told Priya I'd be back by 8. Of course. He paid the check. She tried to split it. He said no. She let him, but she looked a little annoyed about it in a way he found privately charming. They walked out into the gravel parking lot. The sun had set. The sky over the cornfields was the pale blue that sky gets at the very end of the day, and a few early stars had come out, and a cricket was going somewhere in the grass along the fence. Their 2 cars, her rental and his truck, We're parked next to each other. Thank you, she said, for coming. Thank you for asking. She looked at him. He looked at her. The distance between them was maybe 2 feet. It was not a short distance. It was not a long one either. Adrien, she said. Yeah. I'm here until next Friday. Then I have to go back to Chicago for a meeting. I don't know what happens after that. I don't want to pretend I know. I don't want to tell you I have a plan, because I don't. Okay? But I'd like to see you again before I go. He thought about it. Not for long. He already knew the answer. He had known it since the text the night before, and before that since she had handed him the card in the cafe. Yeah, he said, I'd like that too. Okay. Okay, oi. She did not step closer. He did not step closer. They stood there in the gravel parking lot for another second, and then she smiled, a small, tired, real smile, and got in her car, and he got in his truck, and they drove back toward town in a small 2-vehicle caravan, her rental ahead of him, the back of her head visible in the driver's seat, until she turned off at the exit for Elm Street and he kept going toward Priya's. He picked up Mia. Mia was already in her pajamas because Priya had given her a bath. Priya looked at him for half a second too long when she handed over the backpack, but she didn't say anything, which he was grateful for. In the car, Mia said, Daddy, did you have fun? I did, sweetheart. Who were you with? He glanced at her in the rear view. She was looking at him with her mother's eyes, dark and steady and slightly amused, the way her mother used to look at him when she already knew the answer to a question and was just waiting to see what he would do with it. A new friend, he said. Okay. Is that okay? Yeah, Daddy. She was quiet for a minute. Then she said, Daddy, will you still pick me up tomorrow? He felt something cold move through his chest, a fast surprise thing, because he understood what she was asking. She was 7. She had lost her mother when she was 3. She remembered almost nothing about that. She remembered everything about her father, every day of him, the way he made her breakfast, the way he stood across the street from the school at 2:40 with his arms crossed, the way he was the one fixed thing in her whole life. He pulled the truck over. He put it in park. He turned around in the seat as much as the seatbelt would let him, and he looked at her. Mia, he said. Look at me for a second. She looked at him. I'm going to pick you up from school tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that. I'm going to pick you up from school every day until you don't want me to anymore, and even then I will probably still sit in the parking lot and pretend I'm there for some other reason. Okay? Okay? I love you more than anybody or anything. Nothing changes that. Nothing. Okay, Daddy. Do you believe me? Yeah. Good. He turned around. He put the truck back in drive. He pulled back onto the road. In the rear view, Mia was looking out the window at the streetlights going past, and her small face was calm again, and he understood that she had needed to ask the question, and that she had needed him to answer it exactly the way he had answered it, and that she would probably need him to answer it again, in smaller ways, a dozen more times, in a dozen more conversations, before she stopped needing to ask. That was fine. He would answer it every time. When they got home, she brushed her teeth, and he read her 2 chapters from the Lighthouse book, and he turned off her lamp, and he stood in her doorway until she was asleep. He went downstairs. He poured himself a glass of water from the kitchen sink and stood drinking it by the window. Outside, Mrs. Petrak's porch light was on, a small yellow square against the blue evening, and somewhere a few blocks over a dog was barking at nothing in the particular rhythm of a dog with no real complaints. His phone buzzed on the counter. A text from Sienna. Got home. Thank you for tonight. I mean it. He typed back, thank you for the pancakes. I didn't make the pancakes. You took credit for them. That's different. A pause. Then, good night, Adrien. Good night. He set the phone down. He finished his water. He rinsed the glass. He turned off the kitchen light. He stood in the dark hallway for a second, listening to the old radiator tick, and to the small, steady breathing of his daughter upstairs, and to the particular quiet of a house that was still the same house it had been a week ago, and was also, somehow, not the same house at all. He went to bed. He slept better than he had slept in 2 nights. He did not dream. In the morning, the first thing he saw when he opened his eyes was the patch of ceiling above his bed, where a water stain from an old roof leak had been patched over with spackle that was just slightly the wrong shade of white. He had been meaning to sand it and repaint it for about 2 years. He had never gotten around to it. He thought, looking at it, that maybe this weekend he would. He did not sand the ceiling that weekend. The sleepover at Luna's happened on Saturday, which meant Adrien had the house to himself for the first time in months, and he spent most of that empty Saturday not repainting anything. He sat on the back step with a beer he did not finish, and he watched a squirrel take an entire walnut from the tree in the yard to the top of the fence to the neighbor's garage roof and lose it somewhere near the gutter. He thought about his wife for about an hour. In a way, he had not let himself think about her in a long time. Not the sick version of her and not the dying version of her, but the version of her who used to stand at the kitchen window in her scrubs at 6:15 in the morning, drinking coffee from a chipped mug that said, "World's okayest nurse." He thought about how she would have liked Sienna, probably, and then how she might not have, and then how it didn't matter because Elena was gone and had been gone for 4 years, and had told him not to be alone forever and had meant it. He picked Mia up from Luna's on Sunday afternoon. Mia was half asleep in the car before they had even left Priya's block, clutching a new plastic bracelet that Luna had made her and that had, according to Mia, taken 9 hours to make. Adrien drove home slowly. He cooked a frozen lasagna because he didn't have it in him to cook properly, and they ate it on the couch watching a cartoon about a family of otters. And Mia fell asleep with her head on his arm before the otters had even solved their problem. He carried her upstairs. He put her in bed in her clothes because she was too far gone to put on pajamas, and he left her stuffed rabbit tucked under her chin, and he went downstairs and washed the lasagna dish and sat at the kitchen table for a long time looking at nothing. He had not seen Sienna since the diner. They had been texting, short, easy texts, the kind of texts people send when they are trying not to scare each other off. She had sent him a picture on Saturday afternoon of a box of National Geographic magazines with a handwritten label on the side that said Donald's Birds 1974 to 1981. And underneath the picture she had written, "Who is Donald and why did he only like birds for 7 years?" He had written back, "Donald is your grandfather. He had a 7-year bird phase, happens to the best of us." She had sent a single laughing emoji, which he had stared at for longer than he needed to, because the emoji, from her, felt weirdly intimate, like she had let some small professional wall down. She was flying back to Chicago on Friday. That was 5 days away. They had not made a plan yet to see each other again before she left. They were both, he understood, being careful, and neither of them was going to admit they were being careful, because admitting you were being careful was the same as admitting there was something to be careful about. Monday morning, Adrien woke up at 6:12. He made pancakes, not shaped like cats, just regular ones, because Mia was still tired from the sleepover and a cat required effort he didn't have. She ate too. She drank her orange juice. She asked him what she was supposed to wear for picture day, and he told her to wear whatever she wanted, and she chose a red corduroy dress with a denim jacket and a pair of rainbow socks that did not match either the dress or the jacket. And she looked, standing in the front hall with her backpack on, like a small, deliberate person who had made 1,000 tiny decisions on her own behalf. He told her she looked beautiful. She said, "I know, Daddy," with the perfect flatness of a 7-year-old who had been told she was beautiful her whole life and had started to accept it as a simple fact about the world. He put her on the bus. He went back inside. He made a second cup of coffee. His phone was on the kitchen table. It buzzed. He assumed it was Teo. It was not Teo. The name on the screen was a number he did not recognize, with a 212 area code, which was New York City, which was not somewhere he knew anybody. He almost let it go to voicemail. He had been letting a lot of calls go to voicemail since the video. Strangers had been finding his number. A producer from a morning show in Columbus had called him on Friday. A reporter from a website he had never heard of had called him twice on Saturday. He was planning to change his number on Monday afternoon after he got off work. But there was something about the area code. 212. Manhattan. He remembered that. He had been stationed with a sergeant from Queens for about 18 months, and the sergeant had complained every week about how hard it was to keep a Manhattan phone number when you were moving around all the time. He picked up. "Hello? Is this Adrien Cole?" The voice was a woman's, low, tired, the kind of tired that was older than the morning. "Who's asking?" "My name is Dana Shaw. I'm a legal assistant at a law firm called Keller, Montez & Ryland.
We're representing a man named Brandon Whitfield. I think you may know who that is. Adrien put his coffee cup down on the counter. He sat down at the kitchen table. He made himself be quiet for a second before he answered. Is that the man from the cafe? That is the man from the cafe, yes. Okay.
I'm calling as a courtesy, Mr. Cole. My client has filed a civil complaint against you. The complaint alleges excessive force, physical and emotional damages, and reputational harm. You're going to be served with the papers later today. I wanted to let you know in advance so you weren't caught off guard at your front door. Adrien stared at the wood grain of the kitchen table. Mr. Cole? I'm here. I know this is difficult information. I wanted you to have it as early in the day as possible so you could call a lawyer and prepare. I don't have a lawyer. I understand. I would strongly encourage you to find one by the end of the day. Okay? A pause on the other end. Then, in a different voice, a voice that was not the lawyer assistant voice. Mr. Cole, I shouldn't say this, but off the record, my firm handles a lot of cases for people like Mr. Whitfield. I've read the file. I've seen the video. There is a reason I am the one calling you at 8 in the morning instead of one of the attorneys. The attorneys don't want this case either. Then why are they taking it? Because he is paying them, Mr. Cole. Right. Do not talk to him. Do not talk to his representatives without a lawyer present. Do not post anything on the internet. Do not, under any circumstances, give interviews. Find a lawyer, a good one, today. Okay? Good luck. The line went dead. Adrien sat at the kitchen table for about a minute. He looked at the phone. He looked at the wood grain. He looked at the stain on the ceiling that he still had not sanded. Somewhere outside, a crow was complaining about something, long and flat and unhappy. He thought, this is going to cost money I don't have. He thought, this is going to be in the paper. He thought, Mia is going to hear about it from some kid in her class. He pressed both palms flat against the table. He breathed in through his nose. He breathed out through his mouth. He had been taught a long time ago that when a situation turned bad, you did not solve all of it at once. You solved the next thing. He tried to find the next thing. The next thing was Teo. Teo needed to know, because Teo was going to see the story on his phone sometime today, and Adrien owed it to him to hear it from him first. Teo was also, in a way Adrien had not quite admitted to himself, the closest thing he had to a business partner, and if the business was about to have a lawsuit attached to its face, Teo had a right to know immediately. He called him. Primo. Teo, are you sitting down? I'm in my truck. Is that close enough? Pull over. What's up? Pull over, Teo. A pause. The sound of a turn signal. A truck slowing down. Okay, I'm pulled over. What? I just got a call from a law firm in New York. The guy from the cafe is suing me. Silence. A long one. Adrien could hear Teo breathing, and he could hear the faint sound of a country radio station in the background, a man singing slowly about a dog. Suing you for what? Excessive force, damages, reputation. Primo. Primo. You did not use excessive force. You barely touched him. I know. He threw a punch on video. I know. The video is on the internet. I know. Has like 5 million views now. I know, Teo. Primo, that's insane. I need a lawyer. Yeah, you do. Teo was quiet for a second. My cousin Ramon, on my mom's side, not on your side, different side. Ramon went to law school. He works for some firm in Cleveland. I can call him. What does he do? What kind of law? I don't know. Law, lawyering. Teo. I'll ask Primo. I'll call him right now. I'll call you back. Thank you. Don't thank me. What is wrong with this guy? What is wrong with people? I have to go. I have to make some calls. Primo. Yeah. You okay? Adrien looked at the ceiling stain. I'm okay. Okay. I'll call you back. He hung up. He sat at the kitchen table a little longer. Then he called his mother because his mother was going to hear about this, and because his mother had raised him and deserved the courtesy of not reading about it in the paper. His mother, whose name was Rosa Cole, and who lived 11 miles outside of town in the small ranch house she had bought with his father in 1988 and had stayed in after his father died in 2011, listened without interrupting. When he was done, she said one word. Okay. What else do you want me to say, mijo? I don't know. I'll pick up Mia from school today. I can pick her up. You can pick her up tomorrow. Today you have other things to do. I'll pick her up. I'll make her dinner. You can come get her when you're done with your day. Mom, don't argue with me. Okay. And Adrien. Yeah. The man is wrong. You know the man is wrong. Yeah, Mom. Don't let him make you forget that. I won't. I love you. I love you too. He hung up. He drank the rest of his coffee in 2 swallows. He stood up. He put on his boots. He went to work. Because not going to work would have been worse than going to work. And because the Kellerman's addition needed to be weathered in by Friday, no matter what was happening to him personally. He was taping seams at 10:15 when his phone buzzed. Teo, probably, with Ramon's number. He took it out. It was Sienna. Are you free for lunch? He looked at the message. He thought about answering it honestly, which would have meant saying, I just got sued and I'm trying not to think about it. He thought about answering it dishonestly, which would have meant saying, sure, what time? He tried to find a middle way, not really a lunch kind of day. Can I call you later? 3 dots. 3 dots for a long time. Then, of course. Are you okay? I will be. Adrien. Yeah, tell me what happened. He looked at the phone. He looked at the half-taped seam in front of him. He thought about telling her nothing. He thought about telling her that he would explain later. He thought instead about how Elena had once told him, in a conversation near the end of her life, that he had mostly blocked out but kept remembering in pieces at the worst possible times, that he had a bad habit of deciding who deserved to know what about him, and that he should cut it out, because the people who wanted to know him were allowed to know him. He typed, the man from the cafe is suing me. I just found out this morning. I need to find a lawyer today. 3 dots, fast. Where are you right now? At work. The Kellerman job. I can't leave. Give me the address. Sienna, you don't have to... Adrien, give me the address. I'm coming. He gave her the address. She showed up 40 minutes later in her rental car, which was a small silver thing that looked like a rental even from a distance. She parked on the street. She got out. She was wearing jeans and boots and an old flannel shirt he was pretty sure had been her grandmother's, and she was carrying 2 paper bags from a sandwich place in town and a cardboard tray with 2 coffees. Teo saw her first. Teo had been giving Adrien a wide berth all morning, which had been considerate of him. But the moment Teo saw a woman walking across the Kellerman's lawn with sandwiches, Teo walked very directly over to meet her. Hi, Teo said. I'm Teo. Sienna. I know. I have seen you on my phone 11 times. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault. It's my girlfriend's sister's group chat's fault. Is one of those sandwiches for me? No. That's fair. But there's a bag of chips in the side pocket of that bag, and you can have them. I like you. Adrien had come out of the addition, wiping his hands on a rag. He watched Sienna hand Teo the bag of chips. He watched Teo walk back toward his truck, whistling. Whistling, of all things. He watched Sienna turn toward him. Her face was completely serious. Hi, she said. Hi. Walk with me for a second. They walked along the side of the Kellerman house to the driveway. She handed him a coffee. He took it. His hands, he noticed, were not shaking, but there was a small tension in them that was not ordinary tension, and the coffee in its paper cup felt too warm against his palm in a way that was not about the coffee. Tell me exactly what they said on the call, she said. He told her. He was surprised by how calmly he was telling her. She listened with her whole face the way she had listened at the diner, and she did not interrupt him once. When he was done, she nodded slowly. Okay, she said. First of all, a woman at the law firm told you off the record that they don't want the case. That means 2 things. 1, they know it's a weak case. 2, she's a human being inside a machine that pretends it isn't one. We remember her. We don't weaponize her, but we remember her. We? I'm sorry. I slipped into the voice I use at work. Ignore the pronoun. Okay. Second of all, a civil suit is not a criminal case. He is not going to put you in jail. He is going to try to make this expensive enough that you settle. I can't afford a lawyer, Sienna. Adrien, I can't. I have maybe $6,000 in savings. A lawyer like the one he has costs that in a week. Adrien, listen to me. You don't need a lawyer like the one he has. You need a lawyer who is good at small towns and bad defendants and who does not charge New York rates. I know someone. In Columbus. He's a friend of a friend. He did my divorce consultation 3 years ago when I thought I was getting divorced instead of engaged, which is its own long story for another time. He's not cheap, but he's fair. And he'll take the case on a contingency if it's the kind of case he thinks he can win. Which, Adrien, this is the kind of case he can win. Sienna.
What? I don't need you to fix this for me. She looked at him. Her face did not change, but something behind it did. A small, steady shift. I'm not fixing it for you, she said. I'm standing next to you while you fix it. There's a difference. If you don't want me to, I'll go. Just tell me. He did not tell her to go. He took a breath. He looked down at the coffee in his hand. Okay, he said. Okay. What's his name? Elliot Marchetti. I'm going to text you his information. Call him today. Tell him I referred you and tell him everything you told me. He's going to ask to see the video. There is going to be a moment where he sounds excited and you're going to think it's inappropriate. It's not. That's the part where he realizes he's going to win. Okay. Eat your sandwich. I will. Before it gets cold. It's not supposed to get cold. It's a cold sandwich. But you know what I mean. I know what you mean. She was still looking at him. Something in her expression softened. You look tired, she said. I am tired. How's Mia? She doesn't know yet. My mother's picking her up from school today. I'll figure out how to tell her later. Or, he rubbed the back of his neck. I won't tell her. I don't know. She's 7. What do you tell a 7-year-old? The version she can handle. Yeah. When my parents got divorced, I was 8. My mother sat me down and she said, your father and I are not going to live in the same house anymore. He still loves you. I still love you. You're going to see him every weekend. We are going to figure the rest of it out, and you don't have to figure any of it out with us. You just have to tell us when you have feelings about it, and we promise to listen. She paused. She took a sip of her coffee. I remembered that speech for 30 years, because she meant it, and because she left room for me to be a kid about it. Adrien nodded slowly. Thank you, he said. You're welcome. I don't just mean the advice. I know. A truck went by on the street. They stood there for another minute, not talking, drinking their coffee, watching the afternoon light move on the Kellerman driveway. I have to go back to Chicago on Friday, she said. I was going to tell you earlier. I know, you told me at the diner. I know, the company flew me back. There's a meeting I have to be in on Monday. I don't know yet whether I'm coming back after. I'm telling you that because I don't want to lie to you about it. Okay. If I come back, it won't be because I'm running away from Chicago. It'll be because I want to be here. I don't know if that's the answer you want. It's the honest answer. It's the one I have. That's okay. She smiled a small, tired smile. I have to go, she said. I promised my sister I'd have another dumpster at the house by 2. We've hit a crawl space I was not prepared for. I think a raccoon lived there at some point. Multiple raccoons. I'm sorry. Don't be. She put her hand on his arm just above the elbow. 1 second, then took it away. It was the first time she had touched him at all. She walked back to her car. Teo waved from his truck with half a chip in his mouth. She waved back. She got in. She drove away. Adrien stood in the driveway with the coffee going cold in his hand. Teo was looking at him over the hood of his truck. Primo. Don't. I'm not saying anything. I know what face you're making. I'm just eating these chips. Teo. What? Can you finish the seams in the back room? I have to make a phone call. Yeah, Primo, take the call. He went around to the side of the Kellerman house, behind the hedge, where no one could see him. He sat down on an overturned milk crate. He took his phone out. Sienna had already sent the number. Elliot Marchetti, 614-555-0182. He knows to expect your call. Breathe, he breathed. He dialed. Elliot Marchetti answered on the 3rd ring. His voice was older than Adrien had expected, somewhere in his 60s, with a faint rasp in it, the kind of rasp a man earns over 40 years of breathing the air in courtrooms and smoking enough cigarettes to regret it. Adrien told him his name. He told him Sienna's name. He told him what had happened, beginning with the morning at the Café and ending with the phone call from Dana Shaw at Keller, Montez, and Ryland. He tried to tell it without embellishment. He was not sure he succeeded.
Elliot Marchetti listened without saying anything for almost the entire story. When Adrien was done, the older man was quiet for about 5 seconds. Then he laughed. Not a big laugh. A short, disbelieving one. The laugh of a man who had spent a long time watching people try things they should not try. "Mr. Cole," he said, "I've been doing this for 41 years. I'm going to say something to you, and I want you to understand that I don't say it lightly. There's no version of this case in which Brandon Whitfield wins. There isn't. He doesn't want to win. His lawyers don't want him to win. He wants you to be scared. He wants you to pay a settlement so he can tell a story to his friends at his country club about how he got a pound of flesh out of the drywall guy who embarrassed him. Do you understand what I'm saying?" "I think so. I need you to hire me by end of business today. I'm going to charge you a flat fee of $3,000, which is not my normal fee, but I'm doing it for reasons of my own that are not your business. That fee includes everything: filing, discovery, any motions, and either a settlement or a trial, although I will tell you right now that we will not settle unless the terms are the ones we dictate. Do not speak to Mr. Whitfield. Do not speak to his lawyers. Do not speak to the press. If anybody calls you, calls your cousin, calls your mother, anybody, the response is, 'My attorney is Elliot Marchetti. Here's his number. Please direct further questions to his office.' Have you got that?" "I've got it. I'm going to send you a retainer agreement by email within the hour. Sign it, scan it, send it back. I don't have a scanner. Take a picture of it with your phone and email the picture. Do it today." "Okay. Mr. Cole." "Yes, sir. I watched the video 3 times on Sunday night. My wife made me watch it. She's the one who sent me the link. She said, 'Elliot, come look at this. This is a good man.' She does not say that about people she sees on the internet. She said that about you. I am telling you this so that you understand that you are not alone in this, and that what you did was the right thing. Do you understand?" Adrien could not speak for a second. He looked at the hedge. The hedge had small red berries on it that he had never noticed before. "Yes, sir," he said. "Good. Go back to work. I'll send the paperwork." "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. I'm going to enjoy this." The line went dead. Adrien sat on the milk crate for another minute. He looked at the berries. He breathed. He felt a thing come into his chest that he had not felt in a long time, and he did not immediately know what it was. And then he recognized it, and the recognition surprised him. It was relief. He got up. He went back to work. He taped seams. He measured. He cut drywall. He let his hands do the work while his head did its own work, slower and quieter. By 4 o'clock, the addition was weathered enough that they could leave it for the night, and he and Teo locked up the Kellerman place and stood by their trucks for a minute, Teo drinking the last of a second energy drink. "Primo." "Yeah." "Did you eat that sandwich?" I ate the sandwich." "Good. Did you call the lawyer?" "I called the lawyer." "Good." Teo crushed the energy drink can in his hand. He threw it in the bed of his truck. "She's good for you," he said. He was looking at his shoes when he said it. "That's all. I'm just saying, I know it's not my business." "It's not your business." "I know. But thank you." "Yeah, Primo." He went to his mother's house. His mother had made arroz con pollo because his mother made arroz con pollo when she was upset and pretending she wasn't. Mia was sitting at the kitchen table drawing a picture of a dog. His mother was drying a dish with a towel that had been in her house since before Adrien was born. "Daddy." "Hey, sweetheart. Abuela let me have 2 scoops of ice cream. Abuela is very wise." That's what she said. His mother gave him a long look over the dish towel. He gave her a small nod. She nodded back. That was their whole conversation, and it was enough. He sat down at the table. He ate. Mia showed him the picture of the dog, which was actually, she clarified, a wolf, and which had, she explained, been going through a difficult time. He told her the wolf looked like it was going to be okay. She said she hoped so. She went back to drawing. Later, driving home with her in the back seat, he looked at her in the rear view and he said quietly, "Mia, I need to tell you something." "Okay." "The man at the coffee shop from last week, the one who was not nice to me." "Yeah." "He is still upset about that day, and he has decided he is going to try to cause some trouble for me. Not big trouble, just annoying trouble. With some lawyers." Mia was quiet. She thought about it. Is he going to take our house?
No, sweetheart, no, absolutely not. Are you going to jail? No, baby. Then what? Then it means there are going to be some phone calls and some paperwork, and probably a kid at your school is going to say something about it to you that they heard from their parents. And if that happens, I want you to know the truth already. So you can just say, I know about that, thanks, and walk away. Can you do that? Yeah. You sure? I'm sure, Daddy. A pause. Daddy? Yeah. Was it on the TV? No, sweetheart, but it was on some people's phones. Lucas saw a video at lunch today on his sister's phone. Adrien felt his hands tighten on the wheel. He made himself loosen them. What did Lucas say? He said you were cool. Oh. He said you were like a superhero, which I said was dumb because superheroes aren't real, but he said it was cool. I didn't watch the video because you said it wasn't for kids. Thank you for not watching it. Was it scary? The video? Yeah, if I watched it, would it be scary? He thought about that. He thought about the way he had taken the man down, and about what he had said into the back of the man's neck, and about the crying he had felt through the man's shoulders. He thought about whether any of that was scary, and he decided that the answer was yes, probably, if you were 7 and you loved the person doing it. It might be scary, baby. Not because of me. Because someone else was mean to me. And it's not nice to watch someone be mean. Okay, so I don't want you to watch it. I won't. Good. Another pause. Daddy. Yeah. Is the nice lady part of the trouble? He looked at her in the rear view. She was not looking at him. She was looking out the window at the streetlights, and her small face was perfectly neutral. No, sweetheart. The nice lady is not part of the trouble. She's helping. Okay. Is it okay with you that she's helping? Mia thought about it a very long time. It was maybe 3 blocks. Then she said, Is she nice to you, Daddy? Yes. Then okay. He did not trust himself to speak for a second. Thank you, Mia. You're welcome, Daddy. They got home. He gave her a bath. He read to her from the lighthouse book, which was almost over now. He turned off her lamp. He stood in her doorway until her breathing evened out. He went downstairs. He turned on the kitchen light. He opened his laptop. He found the email from Elliot Marchetti, which had arrived at 2:41 in the afternoon, with a retainer agreement attached. He read the agreement all the way through. He printed it on the small, wheezing printer in the spare room. He signed it in blue pen. He took a picture of it with his phone. He sent the picture back to Elliot Marchetti's office email. He closed the laptop. He sat at the table. His phone buzzed. Sienna, did you call him? I called him. I signed the papers. Good. A pause. Then, Adrien, yeah, I know this wasn't what you wanted, any of it. I know. Are you... I'm okay. Okay. Another pause. Can I see you tomorrow? He looked at the message. He thought about Friday. He thought about Chicago. He thought about the word anchor, which was not a word he had used yet in his own head about her, but which he realized, sitting in his kitchen at 9:40 on a Monday night, he had been carefully avoiding. He typed, yes. He did not say anything else. He did not have to. She didn't either. The last message in the thread was just that one word, and it sat there, and the cursor blinked next to it, and he closed the phone, and he turned off the kitchen light, and he went upstairs to bed. In the hallway, he stopped outside Mia's room. Her door was open a crack. He could hear her breathing. He could hear the small shift of a sheet as she turned over. He could hear, through the window at the end of the hall, a single car going past on the street 2 blocks over, and somewhere farther out, a train whistle, faint and long. He thought, the man in the suit wanted me to be afraid. The man in the suit wanted this to be the beginning of something small and mean that would shrink my life. He thought, it isn't going to. He went to bed. He did not sleep right away. But when he did, he slept all the way through until morning, and he did not dream. And when he woke up, the first thing he saw was the patch of ceiling he still had not sanded, and he looked at it, and he thought very calmly that he would get to it when he got to it, and that there was more than one kind of thing in a man's life that did not have to be finished today. Tuesday morning came in gray. A real gray, not the kind that burns off by 9, but the kind that settles in for the whole day and makes everything, the siding on the houses, the stripes on the road, the faces of people at gas stations,
look a little more honest than it usually looks. Adrien noticed it when he opened the blinds in the kitchen. He made Mia toast with peanut butter because she had decided overnight that she was tired of pancakes, and he listened to her explain, with a 7-year-old's grave patience, that Lucas had a new theory about the cafeteria pizza which involved refrigeration protocols. He nodded in the right places. He buttoned her jacket. He put her on the bus. He drove to work. Teo was already there. Teo handed him a coffee without saying anything, which was Teo's way of saying a lot, and they spent the morning hanging insulation in the Kellerman addition. The work was physical and repetitive and exactly what he needed. By 11:30, his shoulders ached in a clean, useful way. His phone buzzed at 11:41. Sienna, can you come to the house, Elm Street? I know it's the middle of the day. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. He looked at the message. Teo, up on a ladder, noticed him looking. Go, Teo said, without turning around. I didn't say anything. You didn't have to. Go. I got this. Teo, primo. I can hang insulation. Go. He went. He drove across town the way a man drives when he doesn't know what he's driving toward. Not fast. Not slow. Both hands on the wheel and the radio off and his jaw working a little at nothing. He parked in front of 212 Elm, the blue house with the white porch, the one he had rebuilt the railings on 2 years ago. He sat in the truck for a second looking at the porch. The paint on the railings was already starting to lift in one corner. He noted it automatically, the way he noted things like that, and then he got out. The front door was open, a screen door between him and the inside. He could see through it into the hallway, a narrow hallway. Wooden floors scuffed with the decades. A coat rack that had fallen over and been set back up against the wall without being properly righted. Sienna? Kitchen. He went in. The house smelled like old wood and dust and the particular staleness of a place that had been loved for a long time and then left empty for a while. There were cardboard boxes everywhere, some taped, some open, some labeled in black marker in a small, careful hand, linens, upstairs hall, and some unlabeled, which meant they were Sienna's because her grandmother had been the labeling type, and Sienna, he had learned from a text exchange on Saturday, was not. She was sitting on the kitchen floor, her back was against the cabinets. Her hair was pulled up with what looked like a pencil. She had dust on her jeans and a streak of something that might have been cobweb on her cheek, and she was holding a manila folder in her lap with both hands. She did not get up when he came in. Hi, he said. Hi. He took in the look on her face. He crossed the kitchen. He sat down on the floor across from her, his back against the opposite cabinets, his knees up. What happened? I found something. In the house. In a box. In the attic. I was going through a box that was labeled Tax Returns 1996, and I thought, fine, I can at least shred this. And underneath the tax returns was this. She held up the folder. He waited. It's my mother's handwriting, she said. On the tab. It's her handwriting. I know it the way you know a voice. Okay. My mother died when I was 22, 10 years ago. Car accident. My father and we didn't talk for a long time after. We talk now. But it's been like that ever since. Careful. The folder has her handwriting on it, and it says, for Sienna, when she's old enough. Adrien was very still. And my grandmother kept it, Sienna said. My grandmother had this for 10 years, and she never gave it to me. And she's dead now, and I can't ask her why. Her voice did not break. It got quieter. I haven't opened it, she said. Okay. I've been sitting here for an hour. I don't know why I can't open it. I've had 10 years to imagine what my mother might have wanted to say to me. I don't know why She stopped. She looked down at the folder. She turned it over in her hands once. I didn't want to be alone when I opened it, she said. I'm sorry. I know that's a lot to put on you. I know we've known each other for a week. I didn't have anyone else to call. My sister would make it about her. She loves me, but she would. I didn't want that today. I wanted... She stopped again. She looked up at him. I wanted you, she said. He did not say anything for a second. He thought about what to say. He thought about the fact that a week ago he had been sitting at a cafe trying to drink a cup of coffee in peace, and now he was sitting on a kitchen floor with a woman whose grandmother had made him brownies, and she was asking him to help her open a letter from her dead mother. And the right response to that was not a speech. "You're not alone," he said. "Okay. Open it when you're ready. I'm not going anywhere." She nodded. She looked at the folder. She breathed in and out once, slowly, and she opened it. Inside was a sheaf of handwritten pages, maybe 6, maybe 7, and an envelope, and a small photograph. She set the photograph aside without looking at it. She picked up the first page. Her hand was shaking a little. She stopped it by pressing it flat against her thigh. She read silently for a long time. Adrien did not look at the page. He looked at a spot on the floor about a foot to the left of her shoe, and he let her read. At one point, about 2 minutes in, she made a small sound, not a sob, just a sharp breath in through her nose, and she pressed the heel of her free hand against her eye. She kept reading. After another minute, she turned the page. After another, she turned the page again. Somewhere outside, a neighbor was running a weed trimmer, a thin, high whine that cut in and out. When she was done, she set the pages down on the floor beside her. She closed her eyes. She leaned her head back against the cabinet. She knew she was sick, Sienna said. Her eyes were still closed. Before the accident, she knew. She'd been getting tests. She hadn't told anyone yet. She was going to tell my father the weekend after it happened. She wrote this in case she didn't get the chance to tell me herself. She wrote it like a just in case. Sienna. She wrote, "If you are reading this, it means I got to say these things the wrong way instead of the right way, and I'm sorry." She wrote that, Adrien. The wrong way instead of the right way, like it was her fault. It wasn't her fault. I know. She opened her eyes. They were wet, but she wasn't crying. Not really. She looked at him. She wrote about me, about who she thought I was going to be. She said, Sienna swallowed. She said I was going to spend a lot of my life trying to be the daughter she raised me to be, and not enough of it trying to be the woman I actually was. She said she hoped I'd figure out the difference before I was 40. She said she thought I would. Adrien did not say anything. She wrote, "Don't stay in a room just because you agreed to walk into it." He let that sit for a second. "That's a sentence," he said quietly. "Yeah. Your mother was a real person." She was. Sienna laughed, a small, surprised, wet laugh. She wiped her face with the sleeve of her grandmother's flannel shirt. "Sorry," she said. "Don't. I dragged you here for this." "You didn't drag me. You asked." "I came." She looked at him for a long moment. The gray light from the kitchen window laid itself across the side of her face, and she looked tired and young and about 32 years old, which she was, and not a single thing about her looked like the woman who had walked into Merle's a week ago in the expensive jacket. "Why did you come?" she said. "What? Why?" "You have a lawsuit. You have a 7-year-old at school. You have a job. Teo is probably up on a ladder right now trying to hang insulation by himself. Why did you drop everything and come?" He thought about it. He thought about the real answer, which was harder than the easy answer, and he decided to give her the real one. "Because when I got the call yesterday morning," he said, "the first person I wanted to tell was you. And I didn't know what to do with that. And then you sent me the text about lunch, and I tried to brush you off, and you didn't let me, and you showed up in a flannel shirt and a bag of chips, and—" He shook his head. "And it was the easiest thing in the world, Sienna. Standing in that driveway. The easiest thing that's happened to me in 4 years." She did not say anything. "So when you texted me today," he said, "and asked me to come, I didn't think about it. I just came. That's the answer. Okay? Okay." She was quiet for a long time. Then, very carefully, without standing up, she slid across the kitchen floor until she was sitting next to him instead of across from him. Their shoulders were almost touching. Not quite. She did not touch him. He did not touch her. She said, "I don't know what I'm doing." "I don't either. I have to fly back to Chicago on Friday." "I know." "I don't want to not see you again." "Okay." "I'm scared that if I say that out loud, I'll ruin it. I'm scared that I'm the kind of person who ruins things. My mother just told me I was that kind of person, sort of, in a letter, from 10 years ago. She didn't say you ruined things. She said you stayed in rooms." "That's worse, Adrien. That's worse." "Maybe." A pause. "I don't want you to make a decision today," he said. "Not about Chicago. Not about me. Not about what your mother wrote. You just read a letter from your mother 10 years after she died. That's not a day for decisions. What's it a day for? Sitting on the floor, eating something, not answering emails. That is the most un-Chicago advice I have ever been given.
I've never been to Chicago. I know. She almost smiled. I'll take you sometime, if you want.
Okay. Another pause. Longer. Adrien. Yeah. Can I lean on you for a minute? Yes. She leaned. Her head came to rest against his shoulder, light, her temple against the seam of his work jacket, her hair smelling like dust and like whatever shampoo she used, which was nothing he could name. He did not move. He did not put his arm around her. He just let her lean. His shoulder held her head, and the kitchen was quiet, and outside the weed trimmers stopped, and somewhere 2 streets over a dog barked once and stopped. They stayed like that for maybe 5 minutes. Maybe longer. He did not check. Eventually, she sat up. She wiped her face again. She picked up the photograph she had set aside and looked at it properly this time. A picture of a woman in her late 20s holding a baby, both of them squinting at the camera, the woman laughing at something off to the side. She held it for a second. Then she put it back in the folder with the pages, and she closed the folder and she set it on the counter above her head without looking at it. Okay, she said. Okay.
I think I need to eat something. I'll drive. There's a place on 4th. They do grilled cheese on sourdough, and it's the only thing I can handle today. Grilled cheese is a load-bearing food. That is the most... I don't know why you keep surprising me, Adrien. You keep surprising me. It's mostly an accident. I don't believe you.
They got up off the floor. She had to steady herself on the counter for a second because her leg had gone numb. He waited. They walked out of the kitchen together. In the hallway, she stopped and looked at the coat rack that had fallen over. She righted it properly this time, hooked it back into the 2 small brass supports in the wall, and she ran her hand down one of its arms once, quickly, as if saying something to it that did not need words. They went outside. The gray was still gray. His truck was parked behind her rental. She locked the front door of 212 Elm with her grandmother's key, and she held the key in her hand for a second before she slipped it into her pocket. Teo's going to ask me why I smell like an old house, he said. Tell him I had a bad day. He'll ask a follow-up question. Tell him to eat his chips. I will. They stood next to his truck. She looked up at him. She did not kiss him. He did not kiss her. They had an understanding about that, for now, the kind of understanding that does not need to be discussed. She put her hand flat against the front of his jacket for one short second, over the breast pocket where a small card had sat for 2 days last week, and she took it away. Thank you, she said. Any time. I mean it. I know you do. She got in her car. He got in his truck. They drove, in a small 2-vehicle caravan again, down Elm and over to 4th, and they ate grilled cheese on sourdough in a diner booth with a cracked vinyl seat, and they did not talk about her mother or his lawsuit or her flight on Friday, and for 1 hour on a gray Tuesday afternoon in the middle of a week that was trying to be hard, the world was exactly the size of the table between them, and that was enough. When he got back to the Kellerman place at 2:40, Teo was on the ladder, just as Adrien had left him, humming along to the country station, hanging insulation like a man who did not need anybody's help. Teo looked down at him. Everything good, Primo? Everything's good. Okay. Thanks, Teo. Eat your chips, Primo. I mean, you already ate. Eat something else. Adrien laughed. A short, real laugh. He picked up his tool belt. He climbed the second ladder. They worked until the light began to fail, and at no point did either of them say another word about it, because they did not need to, and because the afternoon, in the end, held them both. The rest of the week moved the way weeks move when something in a man's life is quietly being decided without asking him first. Wednesday he worked. Thursday he worked. Elliot Marchetti called him on Wednesday afternoon and talked for 12 minutes about a motion to dismiss, using words Adrien mostly did not know, and at the end of the call, the old lawyer said, "Don't worry, I mean that literally. Don't waste a single Wednesday on this," and he hung up. Adrien took him at his word. He went home. He made Mia spaghetti. He did not worry, or he worried less, which was the only version of not worrying a man with a kid ever really had. Thursday evening, Sienna came to the house. She had asked, by text, if it was all right. She wanted to meet Mia before she flew out, just for an hour. Nothing formal, no pressure. And Adrien had sat at his kitchen table for 10 minutes, turning that question over before he answered it. The honest answer was that he did not know what formal looked like in a situation like this, and neither did she, and that his daughter had a way of deciding about people inside of 30 seconds that he had learned to trust more than his own instincts. He wrote back, "Come for dinner. I'm making chicken." Mia is making a dessert that she is calling a dessert, but is actually just vanilla ice cream with cereal on top. It's a whole thing. Sienna wrote, "I would be honored to participate in the cereal dessert." She came at 6. She brought a small paper bag from a bakery in town that she had discovered earlier in the week, and inside the bag were 2 croissants and a short loaf of bread, and she handed the bag to Mia first, which was the right move, and Mia accepted it with the small, regal nod of a 7-year-old who understood she was being treated seriously. Mia looked Sienna up and down once. Sienna did not say any of the things adults tend to say to children they are meeting for the first time. She did not crouch down. She did not ask Mia how old she was. She just said, "I like your socks," because Mia was wearing one pink sock and one green one, and Mia said, "Thanks, they're from different pairs," and Sienna said, "That's the best way to wear them," and that was the whole thing. Mia turned around and walked back into the kitchen, holding the bakery bag like she had been entrusted with a country. Dinner was not elegant. The chicken was a little dry. The green beans were fine. Mia, who had been told she could ask Sienna anything she wanted, but that it had to be a polite question, asked Sienna if she had ever met a celebrity. Sienna said she had met a basketball player at a corporate event once. Mia asked which one. Sienna told her. Mia had never heard of him. Sienna said that was probably fair. Mia then asked Sienna if her favorite color was a real color or one of the made-up ones. And Sienna, after thinking about it seriously, said ochre, which Mia did not know. So Sienna described ochre, and Mia decided ochre was acceptable as long as Sienna could also name a backup color in the regular set. Sienna said green. Mia approved. Adrien watched this from the stove. He had the very strong sense, standing there with a wooden spoon in his hand, that something was happening at his kitchen table that he was not going to be able to undo, and that he did not, when he looked honestly at himself, want to undo. After dinner, Mia made the cereal dessert. It was 3 scoops of vanilla ice cream in a bowl, covered in frosted flakes, with a drizzle of maple syrup across the top. Sienna ate all of hers without visibly flinching. Mia was delighted. Mia then showed Sienna her bedroom, which Sienna toured the way people tour art museums, pausing at each important exhibit. The stuffed rabbit named Wendell, the drawing of a wolf going through a hard time, the shelf of books that Mia had organized by the color of the spines instead of by author, because, she explained, authors were boring, but colors were not. When it was time for Sienna to leave, Adrien walked her out to her car. The evening had turned cool. A few leaves from the maple on the corner had started to turn, weeks early. Her rental was parked at the curb. She stopped next to it. She turned to him. "Your daughter," she said, "is a whole person." "I know." "She's the best thing I've seen in a long time, Adrien." "I know." "You did that." "Her mother did most of it. I'm just trying not to mess up what's left." "That's not true." He did not argue with her. She looked down at her keys in her hand. She looked back up. "I fly out at 2 tomorrow," she said, "out of Columbus. My sister's driving me to the airport." "Okay." "My meeting is Monday. Then I have a stack of things on my desk I've been ignoring for 10 days. I think it'll take me a couple of weeks, Adrien. 2 weeks, maybe 3. And then—" She stopped. She breathed. "And then I want to come back," she said. "Not to clean out the house. I'll have that done by Sunday. Not for that. I want to come back because I want to see what this is. I don't have a plan past that sentence. I can't promise you anything past that sentence. But that sentence I can promise you." He looked at her. The streetlight down the block was buzzing, the way the streetlights in Briarwood buzzed at the end of the summer when the bulbs were old, and her face was half in that light and half out of it. "Okay," he said. "Okay. Yeah. That's it?" "Sienna." "Yeah. I'll be here." She made a small sound, not quite a laugh, not quite anything else. And she stepped forward and she put her arms around him, not tightly, not dramatically, just the way a person puts their arms around another person when they need to, For a second, beheld. He put his arms around her. His chin rested against the top of her head. She smelled like the bakery, and like dust, and like herself. And he held her for maybe 15 seconds, and then she stepped back. 2 weeks, she said. 2 weeks. She got in her car. She drove away. He stood at the curb until her taillights turned the corner. Then he went back inside where his daughter was standing in the hallway in her pajamas, holding the stuffed rabbit, looking at him with an expression he could not quite read. "What?" he said. "She's nice." "Yeah." "Daddy." "Yeah." "It's okay." "What's okay, sweetheart?" Mia thought about how to explain. She was 7. She did not always have the words. But she had a thing her mother had passed on to her, a kind of steady looking at you that people twice her age did not always have. "That she's nice," Mia said, "and that you like her. It's okay. I thought about it a lot this week." Adrien crouched down. He was at eye level with her now. He did not trust his voice for a second. "You're sure?" "Yeah, Daddy. You can change your mind. You can tell me anything you feel about it, anytime, okay? That's always going to be okay." "I know. I love you. I love you too." He picked her up. She was heavy. She was getting heavier all the time. He carried her up the stairs and put her in bed and read her the last 2 pages of the Lighthouse book, which ended the way good kids' books end, with the girl safe and loved and the lighthouse still there. And he turned out her lamp, and he stood in her doorway until her breathing slowed. He went downstairs. He cleaned the kitchen. He washed the bowl with the cereal dessert crust in it. He sat at the kitchen table for a while with the lights off, not thinking about anything in particular, just letting the quiet of the house hold him the way the kitchen floor on Elm Street had held Sienna earlier that week. The next weeks were ordinary in the way that weeks can be ordinary after a big one. Friday, Sienna flew to Chicago and texted him from the gate, a picture of her boots and a coffee, captioned boarding. He wrote back safe flight, and she wrote back thank you, and that was enough for a Friday. Saturday, he took Mia to the hardware store, and they bought sandpaper and a small can of white paint that matched the ceiling, and they fixed the water stain together, Mia standing on a chair in one of his old t-shirts with a paintbrush the size of her head. She missed spots. He left the spots. Those spots were going to be hers, and he liked that. On a Tuesday, 3 weeks later, Elliot Marchetti called him and said, in the same even rasp he used for everything, "Mr. Cole, the case has been dismissed. They filed a motion for voluntary dismissal this morning, with prejudice. Mr. Whitfield has decided he is not interested in going to trial." Adrien sat down on the milk crate he had sat down on the day he'd called Elliot the first time. He said, "Thank you." Elliot said, "Don't thank me, Mr. Cole. I told you I was going to enjoy this. Go on about your life." And he hung up. Adrien sat there for a minute. Then he called his mother and told her. She cried a little, which she would deny later. Then he called Teo, who said, "Primo, I am taking you out. Friday. You are not allowed to say no." Then he texted Sienna. She wrote back a single word. "Good." Then 30 seconds later, "I'm proud of you." Then 30 seconds after that, "I'll see you on Saturday." She came back to Briarwood on a Saturday in October. The maple trees had finally agreed that it was fall. She drove up in a car that was hers, not a rental, a 10-year-old Subaru with a dent in the rear quarter panel that she said she had put there herself parking at a grocery store in Bucktown 3 years ago and had never gotten fixed because the dent, she said, had character. She arrived at his house at 3 in the afternoon with a duffel bag and a box of her grandmother's kitchen things, 2 cast-iron pans, a wooden spoon, and a ceramic pie dish with a chip in the rim. She did not unpack the box. She set it on his kitchen counter and said, "I don't know what this means yet, but it's a start." Adrien looked at the box. He looked at her. He said, "Okay." And then, because he could not help himself, he said, "Don't stay in a room just because you agreed to walk into it." She laughed, a real laugh, all the way out. And she said, "You're going to throw that at me for the rest of my life." And neither of them heard the thing she had just said until a second later, when they both did, and neither of them took it back. She did not move in. Not that day. Not that year. She kept the apartment in Bucktown for another 8 months, and then she didn't. She left the athletic company in stages, first as a senior director, then as a consultant, then as a woman who answered her old boss's emails when she felt like it and otherwise did not. She started doing marketing for small businesses in the 3 counties around Briarwood: a bakery, a handful of tradesmen, a dog groomer, a woman who sold honey out of the back of a truck. And she charged them rates none of them could believe because the money, she explained to Adrien one night, had stopped being the point. The point had become the work. She got to know Mia slowly. She never tried to be Mia's mother. That had not been the offer, and it would never be the offer. She was something else, a person in Mia's life who showed up, who remembered things, who brought the right kind of crayons and the wrong kind of shoes, who sat on the floor of Mia's bedroom and helped her reorganize her books by color when a new color was introduced and the whole system had to be rebuilt. Mia called her Sienna. Sienna called Mia Mia. That was the whole arrangement, and it worked. Adrien hung drywall. He hung a lot of drywall. The Kellerman addition got finished. He took on a renovation on an old Victorian on the north side of town, and then another. Teo grew the crew by one, a kid named Marcus who was 22 and had a mean right hand with a finish nailer. Adrien started making a little more money than he used to. He did not buy a truck. He fixed the truck he had. He fixed the porch on his own house, which had been waiting longer than the Blake porch had waited for him. He took Mia to parent-teacher conferences. He took Mia to a doctor's appointment. He took Mia to a funeral for a classmate's grandfather, which she did not understand and did not need to understand, and he held her hand through the whole thing and answered the 3 questions she asked afterward as truthfully as he could. He went to therapy. He had been told years ago that he should, and he had not listened, and then one Wednesday in November, for no reason he could name, he called a number Elliot Marchetti had given him at the end of a phone call, and he made an appointment. The therapist was a woman in her late 40s named Dr. Yoon, who drove in from Columbus 2 days a week to see clients in a small office above the Briarwood Public Library. He saw her for an hour every other week for the rest of his life. Some weeks he talked about Elena. Some weeks he talked about the village he would not say the name of. Some weeks he just talked about Mia, or about Sienna, or about a particular angle on a crown molding that he had gotten wrong 3 times that week and could not figure out why. Dr. Yoon was very good at her job. She did not try to fix him. She helped him put things down that he had been carrying for no reason other than that nobody had told him he was allowed to. A thing he noticed, over time, was that he stopped sitting near the edge. Not all at once. Not on purpose. One Tuesday at Merle's, maybe a year after the morning at the Café, he sat down at a table in the middle of the terrace because that was the only one open. He did not realize what he had done until halfway through his coffee. When he did realize, he sat there for a minute, looking at the street from an angle he had not looked at it from in a long time, and he did not get up, and he did not move. He finished his coffee. He paid Paulette. He left a 40% tip. He walked to his car. He told Sienna about it that night. She nodded. She did not make it into a moment. She just said, "Okay," and handed him a dish to dry, and they finished the dishes. That was most of it. That was most of what the story was. What he thought about, sometimes late, when Mia was asleep, and Sienna was asleep, and the house was making the small wooden noises houses make at night, was the man in the suit. Brandon Whitfield. Adrien never saw him again after that morning at the Café. He heard things, the way you hear things in a small town. He heard that Whitfield had sold the building across from Merle's about a year after the lawsuit. He heard that Whitfield had left the area for somewhere in Florida. He heard, once, from a guy who did flooring, that Whitfield's company had been sued by 3 different contractors for non-payment. Adrien listened to these pieces of news the way you listen to weather in a county over. They did not mean anything to him. They were not a victory. They were just a man, still being who he was, in a different place. Because here was the part Adrien had understood, slowly, over that first year, the part he had not had the words for when Mia had asked him on the car ride home from his mother's house whether he was going to jail, the part that Dr. Yoon helped him put into a shape he could hand to other people. A man like Brandon Whitfield was not the villain of anybody's life but his own. A man like Brandon Whitfield was a weather event. You did not beat a weather event. You did not win against a weather event. You just had to be the kind of person who, when the weather came at your table and spilled your coffee, did not throw your whole life away on it. That was the discipline. That was the whole thing. Adrien had been trained a long time ago by an army he did not like to talk about, to do a lot of very violent things very quickly. What the army had not trained him to do, what he had had to learn on his own, was how not to. That was the harder training. That was the one that mattered. The restraint at the cafe had not been a superpower. Lucas from Mia's class had been wrong about that. It had just been the cost of a life Adrien had decided some years earlier to try to build anyway. And the other thing he had understood, the thing that surprised him more, because it kept surprising him for a long time in small ways, every time he thought he had finished thinking about it, was that you were allowed to let new people in. That a man could decide at 20 that his life was going to be a small, quiet thing made out of what was left after loss, and that a man could be wrong about that. That a woman could walk onto a terrace one Tuesday morning in a jacket that cost more than his rent, and sit 2 tables away from him and turn out somehow to be the person who would sit on a kitchen floor on Elm Street with a manila folder in her lap and ask him, in the most unglamorous voice he had ever heard her use, not to leave. That his daughter could look him in the eye at 7 years old and tell him it was okay. That being chosen by a child and by a woman and by a life was not a reward you earned by being good enough. It was a gift, and the only thing you could do with a gift was to pick it up and carry it carefully for as long as you were lucky enough to be allowed to. He was still carrying it. On a Tuesday morning, about 2 years after the one at the cafe, Adrien Cole sat at the same table near the edge of the terrace at Merle's. He hadn't meant to sit there. It was just the table that was open. Paulette brought him a coffee without being asked. Across the terrace, the chalkboard menu had a new special, a seasonal scone that Paulette swore by. Outside, on the sidewalk, a woman was walking a small brown dog, maybe the same dog, maybe a different one, and the dog stopped at the streetlight in the same patient way, and the woman waited, checking her phone. His phone buzzed. A text from Sienna. "What are you doing?" "Drinking a coffee. At Merle's?" "At Merle's." "Good. Bring me back one of the scones, the cinnamon one. Mia is negotiating for a sleepover on Friday, and I need sugar to make decisions. Tell her I already said yes." "She knows. She's rehearsing her argument anyway. She said it's a life skill." He smiled. He typed, "Coming home soon." Then he sat there for another minute just to finish his coffee and just to sit. He could hear the particular quiet of a small-town Tuesday morning, a car engine somewhere, the hiss of the milk steamer inside, a bell jingling on the door, the distant mechanical complaint of a garbage truck on the next block over. The sun was warm on his hands. The coffee was hot. He finished it. He stood up. He paid Paulette. He tipped her 40%. He ordered the cinnamon scone. He walked to his truck. He drove home to his family, by which he meant the 2 people inside his house and the cousin who would be there for dinner and the older woman 11 miles outside of town who had raised him, and by which he did not mean, and would never mean, something smooth or finished or complete, because none of it was those things, because none of it was supposed to be. It was just his, all of it, and that in the end was the thing he had spent half his life learning how to let it be.